Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Thank you for joining us today for this episode of Her Version. The Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from learning from other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Sarah. Sarah often shares her story of being addicted to cocaine. She had a whirlwind of a journey down a road that no one would knowingly choose for themselves. Now, looking back, she is using her story to empower and encourage those in her world of addiction to crawl out and find their true north. Founder of the Facebook group Perpetual Motion, where she gives real hope to women who are ready to rebuild their lives after addiction. Welcome, Sarah. You know, there's people right now who are listening live. I want to thank actually the people who are listening live. Thank you so much for being here and joining us and listening in and supporting Sarah, her story, and the Her Version platform. But I want to ask you, Sarah, you know, obviously there's people here that are resonating with your story. Either it's their own story or they know somebody who
Sure.
you know, is in addiction or active addiction or sober. But I want to ask, you know, for those who are possibly listening now or on the replay who are struggling, who are relapsing, who are fiending, whatever word you want to use for that. You know, what were your steps? What was your like 1, 2, 3 to get from where you were in addiction to where you are now mentally, emotionally, mindset? What was
Yeah,
like the main 3 steps that you took just to give somebody like an idea of, I mean,
sure.
where am I supposed to even start? Can you give
Yeah,
us an idea of where to start?
sure. I'll try my best, but I don't know if it's going to be a simple 3-step process. Okay. So the first step, as far as I'm concerned, is to admit it, right? Admit it to yourself. Even if you don't tell a single soul, just admit it to yourself. Like some of the problem with addiction, as far as hello, sorry, I lost you there. I think my
That's
Wi-Fi
okay.
went down. So sorry. I
That's
think part of the problem with addiction is that we don't know that we're addicted until we try and quit. Right? And that's when we first get the alert. And so, you know, to admit it is a huge thing. And I didn't admit it for a long time, mainly because I thought, well, people are going to expect me to do something about it if I tell them. And I ain't ready to, quite frankly. Right?
yes.
So, no, yeah, know that your strength is going to come from you. Okay. Like anybody trying to coerce you or guilt you into it, it's not helpful. Actually, it's not helpful. It's got to come from you. So for me personally, I always say to my clients and the people that I help, you know, don't try and do this until you are ready, because otherwise what's going to happen is potentially you're going to fail. And if you fail, then you're going to get more evidence that you can't do it. And then that stops you from trying again.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
Wait till
Yeah.
you are ready and then admit it to yourself. And you know, and when you can, share it with somebody and start to try and seek help. And there's all different pathways into recovery. Okay, you don't have to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. You don't have to go on XYZ meds. You don't have to anything. Okay, you are in recovery if you say that you are. Yeah. And there's so much support out there. So always plug into a recovery community, I would suggest. All right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is know that not every day is going to be a walk in the freaking park. Some days the voice of addiction is going to be on you. And this is really the key to the second part, right? Is to separate yourself from your addiction, right? You are not your addiction. It's not you. Okay. Yeah. So when we hear this voice in our own head, in our own voice, and it's so seductive, it's a trick. It's a trick. It sounds like you think it's a good idea, and it's freaking not. This is your addiction speaking, and it will tell you things like, it'll be okay this time. You've learned your lesson. You won't stay up all night. You will definitely turn up for work tomorrow, right? We'll call it quits at 10 o'clock. No one will find out. All of this bullshit is lies that your addiction will feed you, and it is not you, and it is not true, okay? It is never a good idea, but it happens to all of us, all right? Yeah. So the way that I've combated this step is to make a list of all of the pain that getting on it has ever caused me, right? So things like not turning up at my mum's 60th, going out on 3-day benders when I was married and turning my phone off, and, you know, being threatened with divorce, etc., etc. You know, picking up my son from nursery out of my face, etc., etc., etc. Really spend some time creating this list because you're going to want it, all right? Yeah. And it's hard, I'm not going to lie. It's hard revisiting some of the things because we just don't really want to look at them. They're a bit cringe. But do it, okay? Do it and keep it to hand, because when that voice starts piping up in your ear roll, telling you that it's a good idea, you're so tired. There's no other way. How are you going to get through it, right? All of that crap. Yeah. You're going to want your list. Because when you can go to your list and go, okay, you know what? The voice is telling me this, but here is the evidence that is a crock of shit. Yeah. Right? Yes. And you can start to see, okay, you know what? The voice is telling me it's a good idea now, but what's really going to happen is that it's going to run out faster than what I want. It's going to end up costing me a shit ton of money. I'm going to pick up my son from nursery out my nut. I'm going to probably not sleep tonight. I'm going to wake up tomorrow, be moody and irritable and aggy. The only way out of this is to remedy it by self-medicating again, which means I'm on day 2, and so on and so on and so on. If you can start to fill in the blanks after the immediate, what seems like a good decision, you'll soon put yourself off. Okay, that's the idea of this one. Yeah. And the third step, I guess, is just to keep going, yeah, no matter what. So, you know, there may be times when, okay, you know what, you cave in and something happens, and I'm not going to make that okay and say it's part of recovery. It's not. It's part of addiction. Okay. However, the story is yours to write from that point. Either you use that as your excuse to go back and crawl back under that rock of darkness and isolation and addiction, or you say, do you know what? That was then. This is now. I'm just going to start again. And you just keep moving forward, because your story, like, the best is yet to come. But you'll never see that unless you stay in the light. Yeah. Unless you stay in the light. And, you know, nobody can judge you. Nobody can judge you. Yeah.
I like that you're saying the best is yet to come, because I think people forget about that. They forget that, you know, they're in a dark spot right now. So, you know, doing the next right thing mentally, emotionally, health-wise, will only provide you the best.
Sure. And the thing is, I think, Sabrina, that it's important to mention here is that, you know, sometimes the best comes disguised as something really shit going on. Like, you know, we sometimes have to go through a bit of a struggle, or we have these bad patches, or we kind of hit the skids and everything kind of goes wrong, or we, you know, lose our job, and you just think, what is this? I didn't get clean just to endure this. But actually what's happening is it's a gift. There's something in there for you to learn, some lessons, some experience, someone you're meant to meet, have a conversation with. There's always something that is going to help you to reach your next level. And until you learn what that thing is, it's going to keep happening. So this thing with Chase not wiping his butt had happened like 3-4 times. And I was like, why does this keep happening? And now I realized the reason it kept happening was to help me to make the connection that we've already spoken about, you know? And so this is what I mean. Like, that was the best thing that could have happened. But at that time, didn't seem like the freaking best when I, confronted with that situation, shall we say. But
Yes.
it was the best, and some days are not great wake up and I'm just like, I'm tired, I'm irritable. I don't feel like freaking being inspiring, right? I don't feel like showing up and like, shining a light today. I just don't. Like, yeah, I'm going to do it anyway because I know that actually by helping others, I'm helping myself. And by sharing, I'm healing. And that's what it's all about. That, knowing that every day doesn't have to be something that you wake up and go, oh my God, yippee, I'm alive. It's good when we can. But some days you're just not going to. That's okay. There's still things to be grateful for. And it doesn't mean anything apart from what we make it mean. So just, just know that you're okay. You're in the right place all the time. You're right where you're meant to be.
Yeah, definitely. As far as you and your journey and everything that you've been through, what do you think is the number one lesson that you've learned about life?
About life.
Mm.
Okay. I want to say that I think life is what you make it, right? And that just sounds so freaking cliched. Like, it sounds like such an easy answer, but it really is, because if we are willing to do the work and willing to be more conscious about how we make our decisions and about how we treat other people and about how we execute our mission, right? Then we get to choose how we show up. We get to choose who we be. We get to choose how our life looks like. And I think there's a lot of kind of pity parties and poor me and like, oh my God, worries me. And it's like, well, hang on. Like, I appreciate you didn't choose to be homeless. However, there's a series of decisions that have maybe contributed to this, or things that you can do to improve your mindset, which might help you to want to change things or whatever. That was just an example, and I'm absolutely not talking about homeless, right? But you know what I'm saying here? Like, it gets to be how we choose it to be. Like, we choose how we respond is what I mean, right? We choose how we respond. So we can't choose the circumstances, but we can choose how we respond to them.
Definitely. How do you think your son has benefited from your journey that you've been on?
Oh my God. So the mum that I am now is just, it's unrecognizable. So it's important to say he never went without, okay? He never went without. He was never, hungry or he wasn't played with or any of that stuff. He's had an amazing life, right? But equally, there were times when I was tired and I was ratty and, I was going to come down and I just couldn't be asked, right? Of course, you expect that, if your mum's doing coke 3 or 4 nights a week. And so for him, I've been able to be much more present now, and just enjoy doing the things with him. So a lot of things would take a back burner whilst I was in active addiction, by which I mean things I'm being paid to do. And so then, it'd all get left till the last minute, and then I'd be trying to do it while he's there, and it'd be like, you've got kids, haven't you?
Yeah. Well,
when it's like,
I have an 18-year-old now, but yeah.
You're trying to do one. Okay. When you're trying to do one thing and you can't get to the end of this freaking one thing without like, and it drives you demented, right? But I had to say to myself, Sarah, it's your own fault. You could have done it while he was at nursery, but you were too busy doing other things. And you chose to have a life like this, like with him at home a couple of days a week, so that you could watch him grow up. Or telling him to shut up just so you can send an email is not, it's not creating memories with a boy like you envisaged. And so the mum that he's got now, every Thursday we have Mummy and Chase Day of Fun. So we go out and we do things together, and we go to the zoo and we go to tumble tops and all sorts of fun stuff, like an intentional, deliberate day just for the two of us to do fun stuff, which he loves. Like, I've really seen him, come out of his shell a lot, and he's never been shy, but really step into his own character and his own personality from having that dedicated day that's just for him. And for us to do stuff together to build our relationship. Like, so that's one thing. Or like, I'm much more patient now, much more able to sit him down and explain, look, you're only 3, but Mummy gets really cross when XYZ thing, and this is why. you know, and I don't know whether he understands it any more than what he would have done. But before it would have been like, just shut up. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
now I'm much more tolerant and more energetic and, you know, much more mindful about what I say and what I'm showing him. So he also has the rage, right? Which we spoke about already.
Yeah.
And he gets very frustrated, and he's only 3. So part of that is that his emotions are developing and he doesn't know how to express them and doesn't know what to do with them, can't even identify them. And I get that. But he's a chucker of things. And it would be fine if this was like, you know, a soft toy. But when it's like a great big, massive Paw Patrol truck, you know, it's not so good. And so, you know, I've suddenly realised that actually if trauma can be passed down through the generations, then
Yeah.
surely so can healing, right? And so like, it's become more important to me to heal my own stories so that the generational trauma ends with me. It doesn't get passed down. Like I've already passed it to him. I can see that. I can see the rage, and that's come from me. I know that. And so I'm much more aware of how my work on myself impacts him.
Yeah.
Through me healing myself, not necessarily through me showing up as a better parent, through me being more conscious about what I'm doing with myself.
Yeah. Definitely. Wow. Well, that's awesome. And I'm so happy that he now has you, you know, as far as the new and improved Sarah. I want to say, you know,
Yeah, for sure.
I want to ask, you know, as far as, you know, you mentioned, you know,
Sorry, my signal keeps going.
oh, that's okay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Nope. Yes. Can you hear me now? Ooh.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It happens sometimes. It's normal. I'm used to it. I want to ask what you do for business, though.
Hello.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
No, sorry. I don't know what's going on with my signal here today.
That's okay. Can you see me and hear me now?
I can, yeah.
Okay, awesome. I wanted to ask what you do for business. What do you do? I
Yes,
know that we have your Facebook group listed above your head.
yes, yes, yes.
What else do you do as far as, you know, coaching and mentoring, you know, within the addiction community? Can you talk about it a little bit?
Can you say that again? Sorry, that just skipped. Like you started off saying one thing, and then I think I heard the end of a previous sentence.
That's
Say that
okay.
again.
I was saying, can you tell us what you do for business and what you do within the addiction community to give back?
Sure. So I am a trained recovery coach working towards my professional recovery coach designation. So I have completed half of the training, and I'm certified with that. And so for me, my business is about, you know, how can I help with your recovery today? How can I help with your recovery today? Is basically what we lead with. And I also am a trained business coach. I'm a life coach, spiritual mentor, all sorts of things. So the spirituality piece for me is huge because that is kind of what led me into recovery basically when it did. And without it, I don't think I would have had the tools and the resources and the insights and the openness to being able to understand how to help myself. And so spirituality is kind of the foundation of my business. So I am a coach. I help people really to rebuild their lives after addiction. You know, quite often we think, okay, now what? Like, there's this
Yeah,
massive gap where our
yeah,
drug habit used to be, or this massive gap where our alcoholism used to be, or whatever. And it's like, okay, now what do I do? And I know for me personally, like I came flying through the doors of recovery and I was like, oh my God, this amazing new life. And I've got all of this energy and all of this desire to pay it forward. And now what? Like,
Yeah.
there's so much help getting you up to that point of giving up, and then you give up, and it's like, and there's nobody there to go, okay, you know, well, let me take you by the hand and show you how to figure out what to do next. Let me show you what options you've got. Let me show you different resources that you can plug into. Let me teach you things. There's
Yeah.
nobody there doing that I could find. And so I thought, you know what, this is my space. This is my space. So I'm really just helping people to kind of figure out what it is that they really want to do with themselves and work out a way to create that life that they want to live, you know. And I'm teaching them about different spiritual principles and techniques and divination tools and all of that stuff. I'm plugging them in with different recovery methods and communities and stuff like this, and just being that safe space that is there for them to express themselves however they need. You know, it is a journey. Like, I'm 11 months in. It took me 11 months to find the answer to why I was like I was. You know, this is not a one and done kind of a job, eh?
Yeah.
You know, quite often it can take a long time, and that's cool. And you just need somewhere where you can go, where you're not going to be judged, and it's a safe space, and, you know, someone that's going to work alongside you, be a cheerleader, and you know, walk the journey with you, not in front of you, not behind you, but alongside you.
Yeah.
And so that's really the foundation of my business. You know, I've got a podcast, and I run various programs. I've got a program that's starting this Friday, actually. It's called Awaken, which is a group coaching program. And my next step, actually, Sabrina, is to start my own recovery community. So I'm super excited for this, because I myself did not plug it into a recovery community at all when I first went into recovery. It was only through my recovery coach training that I suddenly became connected with all of these others on the same journey as me, and the difference that it made was phenomenal. And so I realized that there's lots of free communities out there, free fellowships, free sisterhoods, whatever you want to call them, out there. Awesome. And they are brilliant. And I take nothing away from that. But mine is going to be something different, because it's a place where I'm going to show up as freaking me. Like, we're abandoning all these niches. Like, do you want to be a business coach, a life coach? You know, you've got to fit in this box. Bollocks to the box, right? We ain't doing none of that shit.
I love it.
Life is different for all of us, right? I can't be any less of something just because I have to, you know, have a clear marketing message. Like, I'm done with that. So this is a place that I'm building. I know that I'm a leader, right? I know that people feel safe with me. I know that people listen to me, right?
Yeah.
And so this community is going to be a place where people can come and swap stories, where people can come and make other friends with people that are just like them. A place where we can have workshops, we can have events if we want to. We can build this thing together, so it can be whatever we want it to be. And it's just going to be like a sanctuary, you know, a place where there's no judgment, and where you don't have to have done any XYZ criteria in order to, you know, tick some boxes, right? It's just, have a bad day, you come to us. You have a good day, you come to us. You want to just chat about, you know, what you done today? Sweet. If you want a bit of help with your recovery, sweet. If you want a bit of accountability, we got you. If you want to learn some business skills, let's do that, you know? So it's really going to be something different, something really completely unique. I'm going to call it Recovery Central, because recovery is central to everything in my life.
I love that.
And, you know, for so many others too. Yeah. So
Love
that is currently being birthed. So it's going to be a paid membership, paid on a weekly basis. It's going to be something silly cheap, because it's going to be less than what we would have spent on drink and drugs, because I'm just like, you know, there's so much free stuff out there, which is great. But when you pay for something, you show up for it differently, right? You value it more because you've paid for it. And if we could pay, well, for me personally, at least easily £100 a week on drugs, then I've got £15 a week that I can put towards my own recovery, towards my own wellness, towards my own growth and development. And, you know, if you want someone by your side to help you dive into all this crap and figure out where did it all go wrong, this is the place.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So is this going to be a group, or is this going to be a website? How are you constructing that?
So I'm thinking to create it on Facebook, or maybe on Telegram. I'm not sure yet. So it's going to be, as I say, a paid community. So it will be paid weekly. There's no contract. Don't like it, you don't have to stay. No problem at all. I know you're going to love it. And so it will be like an exclusive group. Let's say it's Facebook, just for argument's sake right now. Okay. Facebook group, pay, you get into the group. There's going to be content there for you. There's going to be different ways to engage with each other. There's going to be, you know, kind of place to share stories. There's going to be a place to learn stuff. There's, and it's going to just grow and evolve as we go, because I don't want to come from a place where I'm like, right, I think you need this and this and this and this, and I create all this content because, I'm not going to know what people want or need until they're there and we start having the conversations. So I'm very aware of that. I don't want to bring people in and go, if you come here, you're going to go away with X, Y, Z, because I don't know what you're going to go away with. In the sense of like tangible results. But what I do know is that you will get the benefits of a community, which means somewhere where you belong, somewhere where you feel welcome. It's somewhere where you can feel safe and held and supported, somewhere where you'll get accountability, somewhere where you'll be seen, heard, and validated.
Yeah, that's great. Wow, I love that. I love that. I love everything that you stand for. I love everything that you're doing.
My signal got again.
Oh. Can you hear me? I love everything that you're doing within the recovery community. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I want to ask, what does success mean to you?
Ooh, there's a big question. Success means that I'm happy. Just means that I'm happy. It means that I have transcended the level of worrying about shit and giving myself a hard time about things that are just of no consequence. Like, at the end of the day, does it matter if my jeans are size 14 or size 16? Like, does it matter if Mrs. Miggins down the road said my hair looks ridiculous this colour? Like, you know what I mean? That's what success is to me, is just being okay with me.
That's great. Absolutely. And as far as, speaking directly to the audience, we still have quite a few people hanging out here with us live. What would be some advice that you'd give to females who are possibly struggling, with finding their authentic self? A lot of times people get into this world of addiction because they're scared of seeing who they really are, or actually adulting, actually doing life and everything that comes with life. What would be your advice to somebody who's kind of struggling with that authenticity of themselves?
I think first of all is not to give yourself a hard time. Okay, like, just know that there's not anything wrong with you, right? It's just your way of coping. Now, you might not be able to identify in the right here and now what it is that you're struggling with. Like, I had no clue, as I said, that what I was struggling with was a sense of abandonment from childhood. I, for a very long time, was in denial about the fact that my drug taking was linked to my dad's death. You may not know right now what it is, the reason for your doing whatever it is that you're doing that's a self-sabotaging behavior, right? But recognizing it and being able to admit it to yourself is a huge part of the authenticity journey, right? Is being able to just say, okay, right, this is really where I'm at. Being able to take a look at your life and say, this is really where I'm at. And maybe just try and find one small thing that you can think of right now that you can do to undo that, if you know what I mean. So maybe your thing is, well, I drink a bottle of wine at 5 o'clock every night. Push it back to 6 o'clock and have half a bottle, just small things.
Yeah.
Small things. It doesn't have to be, you have to go on Facebook Live and tell the entire world that you've been doing X, Y, Z things for the last 10 years. You can if you want to. I mean, I freaking did. Yeah. But it's just about small incremental steps. And I think sometimes we see where we are and we see where we want to be. And we look at this great big yawning gap in the middle and we're like, there's all this stuff that I don't know, and I don't know how I'm going to do this, and I don't even know who I am if I don't get on it anymore, and how will I go out for a night if I haven't got drugs? We see all this stuff that we don't know, right? And we get so caught up and overwhelmed by this big thing in the middle that we forget that all we really need to do is just look at that one step there, right? Just take the one step every day. Take the one step, right? Because you take one step today, you take one step tomorrow, take one step the next day. In a week's time, you're going to have taken 7 steps. Or you can continue looking into that great big gap and thinking, start tomorrow. And in a week's time, guess what? You're right where you are now, right? Yeah. And so if you can identify just one small step, the next one often becomes beautifully illuminated as you take the first one in faith, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the step that is your next step isn't always immediately obvious, right? So an example of this might be, you might think to yourself, okay, I want to quit drugs, right? I want to quit drugs. So what step can I take today? And your brain might say to you, go and buy a cat, right? This is just a ridiculous example, but bear with me, okay? Go and buy a cat. And you think, what the fuck's that got to do with my recovery or giving up drugs, right? But on the surface of it, it seems ludicrous, right? But really, maybe somewhere in your head, or you've told your friend or something, you know, when I've given up drugs for 6 months, I'm going to buy a cat. I'm going to buy a beautiful, expensive cat. I don't know anything about cats. So I don't know what an expensive cat is, but bear with me, yeah? And so it's kind of like the universe or God, whatever you want to call it, saying to you, okay, you know what? If that is your symbol of success, then let's get it now. Act as if, because having that cat here with you right now will make you feel as though you're that successful person 6 months down the line who is going to treat herself to a cat when she's given up drugs for 6 months. Do you understand where I'm going with this?
Wow. Yeah.
That you bring it into the now and you treat it as if it's now, and that's your next step. So although it seems ludicrous, actually there is a reason for it, and we don't always have to know the reason.
That's awesome. It's awesome. It's good.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah. I totally appreciate that. And I so understand what you're saying. And I think that that's a great example. And I love cats.
I do not. I absolutely don't. I've never liked animals, Sabrina. So since I had Chase, right, like he has taught me so much about myself. And this is part of one of the blessings, isn't it? Like of me giving up drugs and being open to learning more about myself. You know, I've never liked animals. I've never had a pet in my life, ever, 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 ever. My mum never did, and so she didn't like him, and she passed that on to me. And then I've had him, and he's like a little mini Doolittle. You know, the squirrels like follow him around the park, and like he's just like, "Mummy, look at that beautiful pigeon," and I'm like, "Are you for real?" Right? It's a freaking sky rat. You know, but he's taught me about love, respect for nature. Like now I love taking him out to see the animals, and you know, we look at bugs and insects, and you know, I don't want to just kill them and get them out of my house. I'm like, wow, look, a tarantula, my bedroom, wow, you know.
That's great. That's great. Yeah,
It's a journey.
children do definitely bring another level of awareness into
Yeah.
what I've said is fun. Yeah, I always say
So I
that.
just thought actually of some more advice, right? I just thought of some more advice, and it's to use what's going on around you to give you clues as to what's really troubling you, right? So in the same way that I was able to use Chase going to the toilet or telling me to identify the root cause of 20 years of freaking drug taking, that is available to you too. Granted, my coaching training and all of that stuff, and you know, the way that I've done it myself has helped me to be able to do that relatively easily. But here's what you do in a nutshell, right? Whatever it is that you are going at, right? Take a look at that and try and unpick it to the point where you can say, okay, all right, if it wasn't the actual thing that happened that's troubling me, what is it reminding me of? What's it making me think of? What is similar to this that's happened before in the past?
Wow.
Right? And start to do a bit of digging. And you might have to do it a few times before you get to the real answer, but very rarely is it the thing that's actually in front of you that you're responding to. It's some unresolved shite that is just trapped inside you that we don't even know is there because we spent so long not looking at it. But with a bit of introspection repeatedly, you will get there in the end. And so if you want answers, they're all there. But you've got to be willing to go looking for them. And it does take a bit of digging, and it does take a bit of patience, and it takes a hell of a lot of courage. But you've got this.
Yes, that's awesome. I so appreciate that. Well, listen, Sarah, this has been phenomenal. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your day to sit down with myself and the community here. Your story is so inspiring. I'm so proud of you, everything that you're doing within the recovery arena. And I'm so proud of the mom that you are evolving into, and all of the work that you are doing is not only going to help, you know, your son and the generations to come off of your line, but also just the people in your world, you know, and the people who come into your world and get the help from you. So I so appreciate you being here. Is there any closing thoughts before I close up the podcast?
closing thoughts is just honestly know that you've got this. Even in the times when it seems impossible, when it seems like there's no way out, when it seems like, God, this is literally nothing can get any worse right now, right? That you are always held and guided and protected and loved, and this is not the end of your story. It absolutely freaking isn't, and you are in charge of that. Yeah.
Yes.
So just know that you are worth it. You are
Yeah.
worth saving your own life for.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I so appreciate that.
That's it.
For those of you watching live, we so appreciate you being here and hanging out with us, supporting the community. And Sarah, for those of you watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so that we know that you were here and so that we know that, or so we can send you some love. This has been the Her Version podcast. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, make sure you reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others